All right, all right. So we took a little break. Welcome back to TCLN. Let's talk about this guy. Welcome back. The U.S. student loan debt resumes. Now, as you know, May the 5th was the day that it resumed, right? It came back. Now, guys, y'all remember this period where it just seemed like, ooh, all these student loans was going to get taken care of, where it just seemed like, ooh, all these student loans are going to get taken care of, and everybody may just get relieved from their debt, right? Dave Ramsey talked about that. He said that's not the first time that they've done that. He said he knew that they were not going to do that. He said so. He was encouraging people to continue to pay their loans, continue to do what they needed to do. And it looks like Dave Ramsey was correct. He should know, right? He's been in this financial institution game for a long time. So Dave Ramsey knew, and I think we all kind of knew, right? We was hoping and wishing it would be different. And let me tell you why. Let me tell you why, guys. So anyway, of course, the debt loans and student loans have been trending in the news. But let me tell you why. There are various factors when it comes to this. And I've come up with a conclusion with these factors, and we're going to talk about it, right?
Never stop, forget it if I want it. Gotta make to myself a promise. I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top.
Yo, no, I ain't the type to give up. If I do something, man, I do it till I get what I want. I turn a business out of nothing into something. Now we ain't out here moving rocks, we out here moving boulders. Now we ain't getting posterized, we out here making posters, and we ain't got nothing to hide. We move forward like soldiers.
Never stop, forget it if I want it. Gotta make to myself a promise. I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top, yeah.
You know I'm always
Make sure you're hitting that like button, subscribe, and share button. Make sure you're hitting your notifications in your phones, because if you like content like this, I don't want you to miss. I'm dropping every week, and don't want you guys to miss, okay? So make sure your phones are turned on, so when the news is coming through, you get your little notifications in your phone. But let's talk about this. So when it comes to the student loan debt, I did a little research, right? Because I wanted to know, why were they giving loans out to people, number one, whose education was not that up to par, and number two, who could not afford these loans? I wanted to know why, right? Was it because, disparities or economic disadvantage or something like that, and they just wanted to be nice people and help us out, right? Or was there something a little bit more that was more beneficial to maybe a certain types of people or certain types of individuals, and it would be more beneficial to them than it would be to those that would take out these loans, right? And then I started asking myself, okay, even though people were able to take out these loans and to get financial aid, and during Obama's administration, you know that the financial aid went up. We were excited about that because that was during the time I was in college. We was like, "Oh, we getting some extra money," so, right? And we were excited about college. So it's not like we were just playing around about college and didn't like college. No, us who went, because we were journalism students and we were having fun, and so I don't know about all students. I just know that the people I hung around, we were excited, right? But I'll just, from my experience from college, and I remember us having a meeting on our campus one time, because I worked as a what do they call that? My gosh, when you work for student aid, it's not an intern, but it's more student aid, where you work and you get a little stipend. So I was doing that at the time, right? And so we had to go have a meeting. I was at the community college at the time, but I was planning on going to the university. So we had to go have a meeting at the university. So we were there, and we were told by the university, they were talking to the community colleges. They said, listen, you guys are going to have to start telling the students at the community college that they need to be more focused. You're going to have to plan with them more, and make sure that if they don't know what they take, make sure that you're just telling them to take their basics. They said, because what's happening is, by the time they get to the university, they're not qualifying for the Pell Grant anymore. And now they just have to take out full loans. And I'm sitting there looking like, because see, that's what the mistake we made. You understand what I'm saying? Like, we were students that had made. And I was one of those students that had made that mistake. Now, mind you, and this is why I bring up these issues, because sometimes we don't look at it from different perspectives. And that's what I like to look at TCLN. Like I said, I am not a news reporter, but I love to take the news and I love to like expound on these things and use experience and use real life experiences. And so I know when I joined college, let me tell you a little bit about my background. I come from GED. So I got pregnant when I was about close to 14. I had the baby at 15, somewhere around there, because I know I was 15 when I had the baby. And I kind of was like out of school, right? And so I went from being out of school to a GED, getting a GED, and then going to college. And so I was getting financial aid, but I had to take these remedial courses to come up to par with my math and certain other courses. I was pretty much okay in everything else because I've always been kind of talented in other places. But when it came to certain other subjects, I had to come up the course. So that's where some of my financial aid goes to. Now, they don't stop financial aid just because you in remedial courses. That still contributes to all of your financial aid. And then a lot of times you don't even know what you want to take because you haven't been like in the college life. You have different perspectives in lives, right? So you have high school students that are in these programs where they get to do high school and part college together. So you have that aspect. You have students who have been such great academics, come from like good families or either families who kind of knew about these programs and stuff. So they kind of garnered these kids to make sure that you get all good grades and you're fantastic. And so that way, when you get to the college, you get such great scholarships, you're pretty okay, right? And then you have all these other classes of people, which I came from. You understand, not stupid, not dumb, very intelligent, but we kind of had very, like, all these hardships in life. You understand what I'm saying? All of these blunders, all of these mix up. And we were left out of the loop on information, on just resources and all this kind of stuff. So we were just out there floundering, right? And then people would talk about college and we'd be like, okay, we want to go to college. We want a better life, but not even really understanding what college is, what things are. We're just listening to what we're being sold, right? You know, like you don't want to be on the streets, you don't want to be a drug addict, you better go to college, you know. And so, this is what people fail to realize when they're talking about these issues. They fail to realize you're coming from all these different backgrounds. Not everybody, but the majority of people, right? Because people like to argue and they like to debate, but not looking at all the factors that are at play, right? And so looking at all the different backgrounds. And then you come from those that don't need financial aid at all. Their parents pay out of pocket. Those are the ones that kind of get in a little trouble. They love to party, honey. Are the ones that get the scholarship. Like we over here struggling with the loans and struggling with the financial, hey, and struggling with the knowledge because we're not up to par in education. And then y'all got a full ride and you wants to party. Y'all wants to party like it's 1999, like Prince said. I'ma stop. Let me stop. let me get back on track. You know. But y'all know it's true though, right? So, but anyway, you understand what I'm saying? So you got all these different types of backgrounds. Well, let's look at the majority of these student loans that went to a lot of black and brown people, some white people too, but a lot of black and brown people who come from all these disparity backgrounds and disparity educations. Now, we always know that with this, you do have a group that they will cater to. They will come to them and say, hey, resources for you, this, and this, and that. We're going to push for you. We see potential in you, and we're going to try to, work with you. You always will have that, right? Because they have to always have their testimonies. But unfortunately, you always have those who are in the loop. It's the system, right? It's constantly the system. So then the people are trying to get jobs and go to school at the same time. They can't get a job. They're surviving off of loans. You understand what I'm saying? And then things are happening. They have to drop out. You understand what I'm saying? And they're stuck with these loans. And then they're trying to get up to par. They taking these remedial courses. By the time you done did all this financial aid, you understand, by the time you get to the university, now you're at the university because you want that. You don't just want to stop at that associate's degree. You want a bachelor's or a, something higher, right? And so it's so many variables to it, but it leaves you in the system of this loop, right? And so then you're looking at who really benefited and who really didn't. And then that's where research comes in at. Because a lot of times we don't research and people know this. So they're able to get up and say, woo, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And the people go, woo, systemic issues, woo, this and this and this and that. Or woo, however people want to sell the stories, right? So I just want to say a little bit of that background. You understand what I'm saying? Before I start digging into stuff. So at least you can understand why it's the way it is. It's all these different variables at play, right? But who gets hit the hardest? You always know that those who are the most in those type of economic situations are the ones who get hit the hardest.
Never stop, I'll get it if I want it. Gotta make to myself a promise. I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top.
Yo, no, I ain't the type to give up. If I do something, man, I do it till I get what I want.
And even the middle class sometimes, guys, because the way the economic thing is, even they are hit a little bit hard. You got all these loans. I'm going to cover a little bit about what was the difference between loans in 1980 all the way up to current. How these, not loans, I'm sorry, but even Pell Grants and loans have not loans, Pell Grants, I'm sorry, but loans have skyrocketed. And I'm saying it wrong. Let me refresh myself. But how tuition, that's what I'm trying to say. Tuition has skyrocketed, right? Now, with that being said, just giving you, again, a little bit of my backstory and a little bit of my story. Let's get into these student loans and let's get into some of these facts, right? What's going on with these student loans? What's going on with the debt in America and its impact? And let's get into it, guys, okay? So I'm gonna take a little break, and after that break, we will be right back.
Hi there. If you've enjoyed this message and this message has touched you in any way, or if you feel like it can help someone else, please do leave me a donation. Please do, because that will help assist with my channel and it will help assist with me continuing to provide the best content that help us grow, get better, and do better. I am IBK with TCLN Network. Go over there and support me on YouTube and subscribe. Hit those notification bells. Make sure that your phone is turned on so that way that you guys will get updates daily. But again, donate financially. I do PayPal, I do Zelle, and I also do Cash App. So guys, hey, you guys have a great one, okay? Bye.
Why does the federal government have a lock on student loans? And why are they one of the institutions that you cannot do bankruptcy with them? It follows you all the way to your grave, right? Like student loans is no joke, right? And um Congress making student loans this special type of debt, right? Unlike credit cards and medical bills and business loans and stuff like that, federal student loans were made to be non-dischargeable in bankruptcy, right? Starting in 1976. And I want to also touch on some of the warnings that was given unto the federal government concerning these loans, especially with those who really could not afford them or who really didn't understand them. Because remember, there were people just signing up for loans, and you know how you go, you know how when you go to places, people say sign right here, sign right there, read it too, you take classes, read it there. But people don't still have a cognitive function of these contracts and these loans, right? It's just like in business, right? That's why they say you need an attorney, because some of this stuff you're just not going to understand. You need an attorney. Well, in student loans, you don't have an attorney. You just go over this stuff and you sign it, right? And you're just excited, right? Sign the dotted line. Yeah, 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 I hear you. Pay it back. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. So in 1976, first restrictions on bankruptcy for student loans was a 5-year waiting period. 1998, Congress removed the ability to discharge federal student loans in bankruptcy altogether, except in undue hardship cases. And in 2005, private student loans were also shielded from bankruptcy thanks to heavy banking lobby pressure during the Bush administration, okay? Undue hardship standard is nearby impossible. Technically, you can discharge student loans in bankruptcy, but you must prove an undue hardship under the Brunner test. You can't maintain a minimal standard of living. Your situation won't change in the future. And you made a good faith effort to repay. Okay. So that's under the Brunner test. Now, this government profits from student loans. Now, we know this, right? The government earns interest and fees from borrowers. Even in default, the government, and you know this, even when you're in default, right? They can garnish wages, seize stack tax funds, and take Social Security. Now, previously, I made a video about student loans because I broke down all these different ways that they can come after you on these student loans. Because usually we just hear about government, like garnishing wages, and stuff like that, right? And we hear about like they take your income tax. But guys, there are other ways they can come after you too, right? And I think you need to be aware of those ways. I'm going to put that link in the description so you guys can go look at that video. I actually covered that, right? It's a little short video so that way you guys can know. Also, the government earns interest again on fees from borrowers in default, garnishing wages. And one of those things I did cover is taking Social Security without a court order. Okay. This creates a perverse incentive to keep loans hard to escape so that you guys can understand that, right? Private loans servicers like Navient, Sally Mae, Nelnet, and banks lobbied hard to keep bankruptcy protections away. Okay, so that you can understand that from student loans. So, that's why it's impossible to get rid of these things, right? You either pay up or you either have this stuff on your credit or you know how this stuff go, right? So, in short, student loan debt is treated as a sacred debt or one that follows you to the grave, as they say. Now, let's cover private universities and public universities, right? What I wanted to share is so we can break this down a little bit, right? Go ahead and like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. TCLN loves to educate, to elevate, and to take us from situations to solutions. Thank you for joining in if you just joined in. If you've been watching from the beginning, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. Somebody else may be able to receive this information. Always remember what you know, someone else may not know. And also remember what you know, sometimes you forget. So sometimes things are a refresher also, okay? So let's cover this a little bit. Tuition in state. Now, this was in the 1980s. Remember, I said I go a little bit over the 80s and cover a little bit. In the 80s, tuition in state, and I compared, I did a university, right? And since I took a little bit of journalism, I wanted to do a career in journalism. So I did Mizzou, Columbia, Mizzou. So 1980s tuition was around about $700 a year. And the total cost was around about $10,000 to $1,200. Hit the 90s, it went up to about $3,000, and the total cost went up to about $25,000 to $30,000. In the 2000, it was about $5,000 in state, and the 4-year cost in the total started hitting up to $55,000. Now we hitting up buying a car, y'all. We buying a car. A car. Okay. Now into 2020s, in the 2020s, tuition in state was $12,500 total for 4 year. That started hitting 100,000, guys. Do you understand this? Do you understand the progression? The progression, you guys. The progression. Now, this is in between what you call public and private. I just wanted to break down a little bit, right? 1980, 1990s, 2000, 220s. You understand what I'm saying? Now think about that and think about student loans. Okay. Now I can't cover every college. I can't cover every fee, all of that, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of progression of some things, right? Just so you can see. It's powerful, isn't it, guys? Right now, I'm going to talk about real-time solutions, right? So let's talk about some real-time solutions. I wanted to know what was some takeaways from this, right? What can we, as people of the United States of America and as citizens, take away from this? What can the government take away? What can institutions take away? Now, this is just my personal commentary. You would have to look at your facts, you would have to look at your life, you would have to look at where you come from, right? So I'm going to talk from where I come from. Again, there were so many people like me and myself. We were just not up to education, right? It doesn't mean we were stupid and dumb. We've always been smart. You understand what I'm saying? Or had a certain level of intelligence in certain things. What it means is that we didn't get the full knowledge of what it takes to transition from elementary school to junior high to high school into college. You understand what I'm saying? We didn't have the mentors or the backing, and we definitely didn't have the financial aid. That's why we had to take out federal Pell Grants, and that's why we had to take out student loans. Also, you have to look at when we were signing, if our mind wasn't up so part of education, even though people put these loans before you, you're reading them, you understanding some parts, but there are just some things you don't understand. You understand what I'm saying? And you're happy to be a part. You happy to be a part of something. You're signing, you're excited, you see it, but you're not fully seeing it. And you're not fully knowledgeable, right? I think you guys, even with that, on all student levels. And I think you're doing better with that now. But you must always understand that it is very, very important that people fully understand these loans. That's number one. I mean, that's number one. And then number two, also understand that educational institutions, this is what you can do, because I learned this from my college when I was in college. And I don't know if you guys are doing this or not, but please understand that when these students come along, especially the ones that don't come from the backgrounds that maybe people with scholarships or maybe support have, you must understand, you understand what I'm saying, like they flounder. I don't know what I want to take. I don't know. Even people who got money, I don't know what I want to take. I don't know what I want to do with my life. Please make sure that you ensuring that they are taking their basics first. Because by the time you go through taking your basics, you're experiencing other students, you're experiencing other people, you're experiencing campuses, you're experiencing things. And then by that time, you understand what I'm saying? By that time, you haven't wasted your college money because you're going to need those basics anyway. You're going to need English, you're going to need certain math levels, you're going to need certain sciences, you're going to need certain this. But if they're just taking classes here and doing this here and floundering here and taking remedial here, taking remedial there, it is eating up their Pell Grants. It's eating up that Pell Grant money. So make sure, guys, that you're explaining that stuff to them, right? You instructors, you not instructors because it's not the instructors' jobs, but you guys who work in what do they call that? Councils. You councils that work up in there, and make sure you guide them right, guys. Because don't think that people just know when they don't. So I would say that to you guys because that money gets eaten up, and nobody explains that when you get over there to the university, your Pell Grant money is ran out, and so now you're just fully on loans. And then if you don't have a job, that's even worse because now you're trying to survive with the loans, taking out more loans with jobs. I mean, it's just a trickle down effect, right? So that's what I would say from that perspective, right?
Got it, I won't give up till I'm on top, yeah. You know I'm always
Hi there, I'm Abby Kay. Welcome to the Creative Leadership Network, known as TCLN, where education is the specialty and solutions are the art. I brought this broadcast together so that we can rise above social, systemic, and spiritual issues that we face every day in our nation. The goal is to help us to do better, get better, and become better. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, make sure that your phone notifications are turned on so that you will not forget to be inspired and to stay informed.
Okay, so you know this is an educational channel, right? So we have to take some little breaks in between. Guys, I want you to understand later what we're going to do is we're going to have a little fun, right? Because with education, you know how it is. We gaining knowledge, gaining knowledge. But we're going to have a little fun, just a little bit, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover four perspectives. These four perspectives are going to review basically how they see student loan debt, correct? So chat was my little friend. I went inside a chat and we had a little fun, you know what I'm saying? So chat pulled up some information for me. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. Y'all know how chat work, right? So, but anyway, it's gonna go like this. The conspiracy theorists, how they view the student loan debt, because you know how people are. They be like, I'm a conspiracy theorist. The intellect, how they would look at the student loan debt. The social activists, how would they view the student loan debt? And the insider. You know who the insider is? That's the person who works from within and they got all the tea and they here to tell you what's really going on. Okay. So we're going to cover that a little bit later. But right now, I'm going to continue with the actual broadcast and let's wrap this up with a little bit more information so you guys will stay informed and inspired. Okay. So let's get started. Now, let's talk about who gets the return or what we call ROI, return on investment, on the idea of education as an investment. The borrow now and earn later idea. You know, just like now laters, eat one now, save one for later. But anyway, as education was framed as an investment, has the ROI been more beneficial to lenders or students? We need to think about this, right? Especially for those upcoming and especially for you guys who've been down this path and you want your kids to go to college, right? You want to be thinking, right? So I'm going to put some information in here because you guys need to be thinking. You want your kids to go to school, right? And you're not that person that lives on the hill, but you want your child to get that education, right? So make sure you understand that these details in here are important. Was the education beneficial for lenders or more beneficial for students, for both those who graduated and who didn't graduate, who never received a degree? Okay? So, the dream was sold to students just like this, and which are going to be sold to you guys today. Maybe have a little bit more information, but it's still going to be sold, right? The dreams are always sold. You go to college, you graduate, you get a good job, you become a good, and you earn a good, highly wage, better than those who do not go to college, correct? And then you're going to repay your government loan, correct? That's pretty much what we were sold. Now, today in our time, there's a lot of entrepreneurship sold. So there's a lot of get on the internet, start your podcast, start your channel, you know, do what you need to do, make you some money. That is cool. Because, matter of fact, that is the way. Let me stop just for a moment. Let me give you a moment. Let me give you a little idea. If you got students, I'm sorry, if you got, students who are in high school and they're thinking about going to college, this YouTube, this TikTok is a great way for them to make and earn some extra income that will help pay for their college tuition. I want you guys to think about that, right? Because we all know that, let me just say this, just like jobs are not dependable, YouTube and TikTok, believe it or not, is not dependable. It loves to sell you the idea that you are independent, you're an entrepreneur, but the truth is we do not own these platforms. Do you understand that? If they shut down tomorrow, people's income from here shut down tomorrow. We don't own YouTube. Now we own our creative content. We own our speech. We own our talents. We own our gifts, but we do not own those platforms. So we have to understand that even though people are sold the idea, you understand what I'm saying, that you are independent, you're this entrepreneur and you're doing your own thing. That is cool over your own talent. But at the end of the day, you don't own these platforms. But with that being said, I want you to understand they're open to us now. And this is a good way for your teen or your tween to earn some good income. Now, of course, if they're underage, you would need to be with them as an adult. And like I tell some of the people that I know, hey, make some channels and podcasts with your child. You understand what I'm saying? Teenager, teen, transitioning into college. Why? Because it can earn them money. So you, the parent, don't have to work so hard, don't have to dig into your retirement, don't have to do all those things, make it fun, make it catchy, do it for other teens. You may give your knowledge, you may give your experience, you may give your parenting, but that is helping to pay for some things. That way you're keeping your retirement, and that way they're paying for their college education, and you're teaching them to be responsible, because these loans are no joke, right? So, but anyway, with that being said, I hope that inspires you. Let's get back to it. The dream being sold to us: good jobs, good wages, better than your counterparts who don't go to college. But did it work out that way? Look at our society. See, a lot of people say, I like to look at the data. The data is fine, but data can be misconstrued just like anything else. And the one thing I like is there's a scripture in the Bible where it says, pretty much the earth teaches knowledge, and it does. And the world gives you knowledge, and it does. Now, when we're looking all around us, you understand what I'm saying? You want to mix data with the knowledge in your world. Why? Because the knowledge in your world is just important. When you're looking all around you and you're looking at people in debt, you're looking at people who look good, drive good, smell good, but everything is debt. College loans, you understand what I'm saying? Everything. That is all knowledge. That is all wisdom, not just data. Because again, when people, and my instructor taught me this in college. He said, listen, he said, I'm going to teach you this statistics class, but know at the end of the day, statistics is not always as accurate as we would love for it to be. So let me give an example. If you got over, I would say 1 million women who got pregnant this year, and they had children, and you wanted to do a test over how your baby moves at nighttime or something like that. I'm just giving something simple, but anyway, how your baby moves at nighttime. But you only interviewed 100,000 women, and you come back and you say, oh, we interviewed 100,000 women and we got some stats, and according to these stats, at nighttime women's babies move to the left more than they move to the right. You understand what I'm saying? Is that factual? When you've had over 100 million, I'm sorry, when you've had over 1 million women pregnant, it wouldn't be factual. You understand what I'm saying? So when we're looking at data and we're looking at information, understand you have billions of people on the planet, and you're not getting the information as in totality, right? And I like to bring this stuff up because it's jogging your memory to understand that when we're looking at stuff, we're not always looking at it as a whole. And they're going to be somebody who goes to college and say, hey, I'm not having those kind of problems. And there's a reason why. And there's going to be a lot of people that go to college to say, hey, we're having these kind of problems. And there's a reason why. Because you have experience, you have knowledge, you have wisdom, you have data, and they all play a part. Now, they gave out these loans without credit checks, right? And when they did verification, you know how they do income verification. They check to see, what is your income, to make sure that you're not making over income. You understand what I'm saying? So that you will qualify for these Pell Grants and stuff like that, right? But when it comes to these loans, it's a whole different story. It's almost like Oprah. You get a loan, you get a loan, you get a loan, and you get a loan, and you get a loan. Right? Except it wasn't a car. It wasn't a car. It was a car note loan. Yes, indeed, y'all. But anyway, with these students not really having enough education, like I said, enough knowledge, and not really adding up the true cost of these loans, student loans became widely available and the tuition continued to rise. Same thing with Section 8. You guys remember Section 8? So if anybody know anything about Section 8, where my Section 8 people, either you work in it or you know about it or you've been on it yourself or you know someone on it, you know that it's not always what people would like for you to think. Sometimes people take advantage of low income people and their situation. So there were landlords at one point in time when it came to Section 8, they would actually raise rents because they knew that government was going to pay for this stuff, right? So you mean to tell me that if they don't have enough money to pay their rent, that the government is paying most of their rent anyway, so I still don't lose. So they said, well, let me jack the rent up a little bit, you know. And the government came in and said, stop it. Stop it, stop it, stop it. But on the opposite end, when the government is doing these loans, when do stop it, stop it, stop it come into play, right? So you have to understand again who is getting the ROI on the investment of these loans, right? The government don't want you taking advantage of them, but the lenders are like out of control sometimes, right? Many students truly lacked financial literacy. They really did. And they were given misleading promises. And many just end up at desk jobs. And they also end up with lower paying jobs than they thought that they would get, right? So they was thinking, okay, I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna get this thing, and I'm just gonna be making me some good money. And it just quite didn't work out like that. Rising inflation, rising cost of housing, rising car notes, all of this stuff. It just didn't work out like that. And to take on more dysfunction, people said, I got to live up to this dream. I can't make it look like I went to college and ended up with nothing. I got to live up to this dream. Now, this is for those who did graduate. So I'm going to go get me a mortgage. I'm going to go get me a car note. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to go get me some credit cards. And I'm going to be dressing good, looking good, smelling good. Baby, I'm going to be rolling like a Rockefeller. I'm going to be rolling like Jay-Z, Beyonce, and them, We going to look good, smell good, sway good. And at first, it's going to feel good. It's going to feel good. I'm going to be driving down the highway looking all good, going to this job that it's not going to be able to live up to pay off all this stuff. And then COVID is going to hit. And it's really going to show. And it's really going to set in. And they're going to put these loans on hold for a minute. And that feels good too. And then they're going to sell us. Woo! Guess what, y'all? We're going to look into tapping into some of these loans and getting this stuff off of your back. People are like, really? Really? You see what I'm saying? You see where this narrative going? And that didn't quite work out like that either, didn't it?
Never stop, forget it if I want it. Gotta make to myself a promise. I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top. Yeah.
Seems like somebody's playing checker and chess on us, huh? So to say all of that, let's talk about policy gaps and no real consumer protection. Because these loans are not dischargeable by bankruptcy. Like your credit cards, when you get into all of that, and your medical debt, it's just not, right? These loans are known as follow you to your grave. They can aggressively come after you with these loans if they so choose to. We can say they've been leading it. We can say that, right? They haven't really like hit us like bam, 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 but they can, and they have the power to. And I made a video that I'm going to put a link in the description of this video so that you guys can go and look at that video. There are, I think it was 7 or 8 ways that they can literally come after you. Now, the ways we know of is wage garnishment and tax refunds and stuff like that. But guys, it's deeper than that. Even Social Security offsets. But it even goes deeper than that. When I was digging in research one time and I made this video, I was like, wow, they can literally do all of that? Yes, guys, it get deep. So if you want to check out that video, it's short. Of course, it's shorter than this one. But just check out the ways that they can really tap into you with these loans, right? Student loans, not just any loans, student loans. But the system has been less than an investment for most. It's maybe been a good one and an ROI for some, but for most it hasn't. And we know this, right? And those who didn't finish with their degrees and those who had to take lower income, and even for those who are middle class, that they just thought, oh, I'll be able to pay this off. Even for the smart ones who thought, oh, I'm not going to get into all that debt right away. I'm gonna be savvy. But we know it hit them too, didn't it? Especially when COVID hit. So the dream of the investment and its return on investment, again, it benefited some, just not most. Okay. So I wanted to hit that a little bit. I wanted us to understand that because you need to understand that when your kids are finna get ready to go to college, you got to be thinking differently. You got to be coming up with something differently, right? And you have to have more knowledge and you have to have more wisdom because the goal is for us to stop repeating these patterns. That's the goal, right? It, we failed at it and we failed miserably. But the goal is, what do we do for the next generation? Because some of you guys may have kids, you may don't, or even grandkids, or maybe there are other kids, people's kids that you want to talk to, right? Because remember, life is not just all about us. We don't get into that little selfish corner, be like, honey, I got into that, so you gonna get into that too. You got people who live like that. I got burnt in life. You just gonna get away and be happy? So we don't want to have that selfish attitude, right? Want to be able to help as many people as we can, right? Just like I hope this is helping you. And if it is, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. Hey, and even support PayPal, Zelle, Cash App. Help a sister out. Okay. All right. Now, let's go over some of the ways that federal officials, economists, policymakers, and others gave decades and decades of warning about the student loan system because they saw what was happening, right? They saw what was happening. And they was like, oh no, this is going to be a balloon. This is not going to be a parachute where you just get to fly across the waters and the seas and get to enjoy yourself and drink your wine. No, this is going to be a balloon. And when it pops, it's going to sting. Okay? So let's go over what they were saying. Okay? So give me a moment. Hold on. I got you. I got you. I got y'all. Number one, Government Accountability Office, GAO. So this is a part of the government that holds government accountability, and they did some reports, right? So the GAO released multiple reports over the years flagging concerns about rising default rates, especially among low income and first generation students, loan programs being too easy to access without proper financial counseling, colleges receiving fundings even when students' outcomes were poor. So they were steady giving out student loans, even when they was looking at the grades, some of the grades, and it was still poor. Because when you get loans and even federal Pell Grants, as long as you're above a certain amount, everything cool, right? Now with loans, it may be a little bit different, but with Pell Grants, you do have to be above a certain kind of threshold, right? And it's not even high, which is good in some cases, right? Because all students don't think the same, do the same, but that doesn't mean they're necessarily ignorant or anything like that. A lot of times, them be the greatest ones that go on and do great things, and we do know that, right? So leniency is good, but we have to keep it in perspective, especially when it comes to loans, right? Now, let's give an example. In the 1990s and in the 2000s, the GAO studies warned that student loan defaults were heavily concentrated among borrowers who did not complete college, and that the federal system had insufficient oversight. Number two, congressional hearings and internal memos. Internal memos and congressional testimony from as early as the 1980s showed lawmakers who told about the ballooning cost of college. Experts warned that the loan system was masking the real cost of education and that many students would not earn enough to repay these loans. Some policymakers expressed concerns that the Department of Education was acting more like a bank than an education agency. So you get this, right? Predatory practices by for-profit colleges. And I said this a little bit. Federal government was aware that for-profit colleges were exploiting loan access. That means that these schools were aggressively recruiting low-income students, Guys, people are always targeting, whether it's Section 8, it don't matter what it is. People, they are taking, what they really are taking advantage of is the money. It's all about this money, right? But it's done to low income people, which sets them back even more sometimes, right? It's crazy. That greed is something else. Government investigations, including a landmark Senate Help Committee report of 2012, detailed how these schools targeted vulnerable populations and left them with high debt and no degrees. Y'all understand that, right? Default data was clear. This is number 4. Default data was clear. By the 2000s, data showed millions, not thousands, not a couple of hundreds, but millions of students were defaulting. The loan repayment success rate was low for Black and low income borrowers. Yet loan availabilities kept expanding even while earnings outcomes were not improving for many graduates. So you get that, guys. So you get a little bit of the background of my story. And that's my personal. That's just, and I knew a lot of students like that. You know, we loved college, but we were surviving at the same time. This is true, but this goes with their data too, right? So we didn't know this data back then, but we were attending school. We just didn't know this data. And I definitely didn't attend college in the 80s. I was a child then. So it just goes to match up with that things hadn't even changed. That was in the 80s. Now let's go up to the 1990s and then 2000s when I was going to college. Blows your mind how they knew all of this and still wasn't changing. Okay. Experts' warnings ignored economists, student advocates, because students started saying, hey, they started advocating. Watchdog groups like the National Consumer Law Center, the Institute for College Access and Success, I think it's called TICAS, TICAS, continuously published warnings. We didn't even know about this stuff in college. I'm being honest with you. Hadn't even heard of it. We just running off the dream. Debt without a diploma risk. The long-term economic impact of student debt on communities, not just affecting students, but communities. The fact that student loans were becoming a profit center for the government. So, guys, do you think that they would have told us all of this? That we would have been like, I think I'll wait. Let me think about it a little bit. Of course, we didn't know about any of this stuff, right? Of course, we didn't. So, I just wanted to go over that with you a little bit, just so you can understand just how deep it is, guys. It be deep, don't it? We're talking about deep, guys. Now, let me hit on this a little bit. Why do the federal government have a lock on student loans and block bankruptcy? Congress made student loans a special debt. Let me hit on this a little bit. Unlike credit cards, medical bills, and business loans, federal student loans were made non-dischargeable in bankruptcy starting in 1976. Lawmakers feared that young borrowers who would abuse bankruptcy right after college would just walk away with their loans. So that's number 1. Number 2, the loan system would collapse if too many defaults occurred. That's number 2. But this fear was never backed by data, and it had been disproven over time. So that means that they saw that that wasn't even true, that that was not the problem. The problem was all the previous stuff that I said earlier, right? Number 2, everything tightened even more over time. And here's how it got worse. 1976, first restrictions on bankruptcy for student loans, 5-year waiting period. In 1998, Congress removed the ability to discharge student loans in bankruptcy altogether, except in hard due ship cases. And even in those cases, it is very, very hard to prove that you have that hardship, right? So unlike undue hardship, standards is nearly impossible. Technically, you can discharge student debt in bankruptcy, but you must prove the undue hardship. So I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of that. So just so you can understand, right? This is crazy, huh? Yeah, lock them in, lock them in. What they call it, the hook 'em method, and lock they butts in. Okay. Now, as I promised you, we're gonna take a quick break. But as I promised you, we're gonna have a little bit of fun, right? I wanted to look at this from different perspectives because well, I know mine. Sometimes my thinking can be limited just from our own experience, just from, our own backgrounds and our own environment. So I wanted to look at it from how other people looked at it. And I wanted to look at it from these four perspectives just so we can get a well-rounded understanding of how these loans are truly viewed, right? And not how we view them just on a systemic level, or white people or this or that, how people teach us to view things, but how people view them in general, because like I remind you, all races work in the system, not just one. And if people really cared and it was just all about race, then our race would have been saying, girl, let me show you how to do this differently, right? But no one did. Everybody was getting their pay, everybody was surviving, and everybody did what they had to do, and the consequences go to all, right? So when we come back from this short break, I am going to have a little fun, and we're going to close it out with this, right? And again, I want you guys to share this video with as many people as possible, because it's not just about us. We've made these mistakes. It's about those who are going to be coming up, and it's going to be about your children, your grandchildren, and it's also going to be about people that we're not going to even know. If I passed away tomorrow, how many people would get to see this and learn something, right? So, you guys, short break, right back.
There, I am IBK, the founder and owner of IBK Media Productions, also the creator behind the TCLN project that I use to address social, systemic, and spiritual issues in the United States of America. Now, when I was young, I used to sit back and watch CNN as a young girl. I've been through Reagan, Clinton's, Bush's, Obama's, Trump's, and believe me and you, whether you know it or not, the conversation has been the same. It has been the same in this country. You know what that conversation has been? Our veterans, abortions, our nation, the economy. And you know what I saw? I saw that there is an opportunity for Americans to bring themselves together, to have a voice, to have a place to go so that they can be heard. You understand what I'm saying? Because if we keep going to our government and our government is not really hearing our voices, if we come together, they will be able to hear us. Also, just a place for people to get together, to have community, to go to these communities, to talk to people, and to let them talk. That is what the Creative Leadership Network is all about, and letting everyone have a voice. That is my passion with this project, and I hope that somehow you can help me achieve that, and you can really talk to the community and help the community. I would love for you to be a part of that. And any amount will be helpful, because this journey is not just about me. It's not just about a talk show. It's about a movement. And it's about a movement between me, you, and everyone else that supports. You have a blessed day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Do not forget to support me financially. I do put in the research, I do put in the work. I do love to educate so that we can elevate and we can start going from situations that we're in and start tackling over there to solutions, right? Please support financially. Please do. Okay. Now, perspectives. Let's start with the conspiracy theorists. How many of y'all conspiracy theorists out there? Y'all probably the ones that didn't even get into that. You be like, oh, I ain't, I think it's a sham. I ain't finna do it. Y'all are probably the ones that never got into the debt at all. I gotta give it up for you guys, because you guys, y'all, you got people be like, they just off, they crazy, they looking at it wrong. But now sometimes you guys, you got it right. That's probably why y'all avoid a lot of troubles. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, let's get into it, right? The conspiracist theorists will look at it like this. Okay, they didn't just make a mistake. They built a system on purpose. In other words, you guys would be like, it's a trap, it's a trap, it's a trap. You know, they want to create dependency early. Like they want to enslave us early. That's how you guys would look at it. You would look at it as the federal government knows young people don't have financial literacy. So they would make student loans easy to access. No credit, no income check, no repayment plan until after graduation. It ensures people enter adult life already in debt, needing the system to survive. Okay. Now, why teach financial literacy when debt can keep you obedient? That's how you guys will look at it. That's what chat said, right? Build a debt class, not a middle class. Debt keeps you from starting a business, buying a home, taking risks, speaking out. A population burdened with such loans become a docile workforce, unable to walk away from bad jobs, bad policies, and unjust systems. They don't just want citizens, they want employees. The government profits from it all. The U.S. government makes billions from interest and fees on federal loans. Unlike banks, the governments can garnish wages, seize tax refunds, and take Social Security without a court order. Without a court order. Bankruptcy, nope. The door is shut. Okay? Targeting the vulnerable. Who gets hit the hardest? Black and brown students, first generation college students, low income families. They marketed college like it was freedom, then shackled people for life with this cost. Education became the bait. So that's basically how a what they say a conspiracist would look at it. You know, everybody's vernacular is different. Everybody comes from different backgrounds. You know, you from the hood, you be like, that much that. You know, your mind be thinking, what? You from the hood, but you smart. You be like, no, dude. You be like, no, dude, I can just go up the street, because you're looking at it from that perspective. If you're a little bit more educated, that's probably how you would talk, right? But in other words, the ending would be they sold a dream and delivered a debt sentence, and they knew exactly what they were doing. Okay? So that's how the conspiracy theorists would look at it. Now I wanted to look at it like, how would a social activist look at it? You know, people who like to advocate for stuff. I was like, how would a social advocate take on student federal debt? Like, how would they advocate? How would they see it from their eyes, right? Or their understanding? They look at higher education as a human right, not a debt sentence. Education should be accessible and affordable and free from lifelong financial punishment. And instead, millions of students, especially from Black and brown, indigenous, and low income communities, are trapped in debt slavery for pursuing knowledge and a better life. Education must not be a commodity sold with a lifetime price tag. Number two, student debt crisis is a systemic injustice. That's how they would see it. The federal government's student loan policies have perpetrated racial and economic inequalities by disproportionately saddling marginalized community with crushing debt, ignoring how structural racism and poverty limits economic opportunities, allowing predatory colleges to exploit vulnerable students with false promises. This is a violation of basic social injustice. Number three, debt as a tool of oppression. Student loans function like a modern day indentured servitude, restricting mobility, both social and geographic. Career choices, people must chase the higher paying jobs, not most meaningful careers. Wealth building, debt block ownerships or home ownership, entrepreneurship, and savings altogether. So that's how they would see it. And this is a good thing, right? Because we do talk differently. We think differently, right? But some of this stuff we relate to universally, right? And number four, they would have a call for abolition and reparations. Activists would demand full cancellation of student loan debt, especially for Black and brown borrowers who have been systemically targeted, free quality higher education for all as a fundamental right, and policies that rebuild economic justice, including reparations for historic educational and inclusive discrimination. Okay, so that's how they would see it, guys. And solidarity and collective action. The movement would require raising public awareness, political pressure to break the power of loan servicers and predatory institutions, and building alliances with workers' rights, housing justice, and racial equality. Okay? So that's how they would see it. Now, from an insider's perspective, you know, the people that always say, hey, I got the goods, I got the tea, I was on the inside. Well, let's see how they would see it, right? Now, mind you, I'm reading this as I go, so I didn't read this beforehand. I wanted to see just as much as you wanted to see. Some things I like to let them be, right? So I purposely did not read this beforehand. I have this on my phone, right? So I'm learning just as much as you're learning, okay? Now, advocates for compassionate repayment options. They push for expanded income driven repayment plans. Okay, so they seeing it from insider's approach of fixing the student loan crisis. Number one, they would advocate for compassionate repayment options. They would push for expanded income driven repayment plans that adjust monthly payments based on real earnings. Now we do have that. They already have that now. So that means some insiders who are advocates was going for that. Support forgiveness programs that target borrowers who work in public service or have long-term financial hardships. Number two, improve transparency and counseling. Now, that's where I would come in at. I'd be like, y'all, and I wasn't even an insider because they should have showed us more. You know, they should have gave us a more balance, you know, so that we can make wiser and bolder decisions. But I'm not even sure if we would still, some of us would have been able to do that because we were so sold on a dream. And you know how it is when you broke and you come from certain things, you like, woo woo, all your ears can hear is what they can hear. So, and people know that and they know how to play on that, right? And those emotions. Ensure every borrower fully understands the cost, terms, and risk before taking out loans. Provide mandatory, clear financial counseling. Focus on realistic career outcomes and budgeting. And I would even go as far to say, give a 2 weeks, make people take a 2 weeks class so they can get unprogrammed and unbrainwashed so they can really have a balance that, hey, you know, I know you want the dream. I know this, but this is what's going to be realistic. You understand what I'm saying? We can't say what your outcomes are going to be. Maybe you'll shoot up the skyrocket, but we just want you to be balanced, right? So that you'll know what you're really doing. And number three, collaborate with educational institutions. Work with colleges to link loans disbursements to measurable student loan metrics like graduation rates and job placements, advocates for institutions that keep tuition affordable, and discourage those who exploit students. And number four, promote early intervention and support. Identify borrowers at risk of default early and provide personalized support to help them navigate repayment and challenges. Use data to prevent predatory lending and guide students toward better financial decisions. Number five, push for policy reform and internally. That means inside out. There needs to be a lot of changes done, right? Because like I was saying earlier, guys, and I'm gonna go ahead and put this down. Let me say this before I do. Train officers, loan officers and servicers to treat borrowers with empathy and respect and reduce aggressive collection tactics that cause unnecessary hardships, okay? But like I was saying earlier, there are some changes that need to be done policy wise. Policy is always important, right? Because, like I was saying, from the 1980s, they were still talking about this stuff. And we didn't go to college till 2000. And these things were progressing worshipfully. And the economists and all these types of people, experts, everyone, GAO, and all these people were constantly telling them, look, guys, this is out of control. Now, whether you're a conspiracy theorist or not, be like, no, they all knew, they were just playing the game, they just playing the game. You may be right, may be wrong, I don't know. I ain't gonna say you're wrong though. But anyway, because why didn't it get to the public? It's one thing to say it to the insiders. Why come we wasn't able to get this information? That's how we fall. That's how we falter. And so when we don't have all this information, we're just being sold on the dream. And they're like, okay, you're gonna pay this loans back at this interest rate, this and this and that. We like yada yada yada. Yeah, okay, cool. We don't even know what the interest rates truly mean. You understand what I'm saying? Like, we just don't. Unless those who do, but we just don't. Because remember, these wasn't just being sold to high school students who are transitioning into college, and they feed them certain information, or people who come from backgrounds and families who say, oh, interest rate, I'm looking at this for you. A 5-year period, oh, this, that, you're dealing with a lot of low income people, probably with, don't take this to offense, but with low thinking, but with high ambition, and they want a better life. Okay, but with low thinking, but with high ambition, and they want a better life, just like everybody else. Just you can't help where you come from. You can't help the parents you come from, backgrounds you come from, regions you come from. You're born into what you're born to, but that doesn't mean that it has to stay that way. And most of all, it doesn't mean that people should be able to prey on you. You understand what I'm saying? Everybody gets what they want, and it sets you back even more. So, guys, I hope with all my heart that you have gotten something out of this, that you understand some things may have been kind of repeated. I mean, that's okay, because in teaching, it's called repetition, so you can really get it right. But I hope you've gotten something out of it. We're going to head on our side. You understand what I'm saying? And we're going to close this thing out outside. Okay? So stay tuned.
Okay, how y'all feeling? How y'all feeling? Finally got that done. So, guys, like I said, I hope you got something really, really special out of that. I do make it so that we can understand that we can do better, but it's not just the loan people or the government and all this kind of stuff that needs to do better. It's like all of us, right? And so that's why I take the news and I take content so that we can educate ourselves, because nobody's going to do it for us. So we got to do it for ourselves, right? So, like I said, a lot of times we watch the news, we see the headline, we get the gist, you know what I'm saying? But we really don't break things down, and we're busy. And so that's where I come in at TCLN. I love to educate to elevate, take us from situations to solutions so that we can be better, do better, and get better all at the same time, right? So, guys, again, I hope you enjoyed it. I do want you to check out other videos I have made, and I posted just one this week about the Urban League. Is the National Urban League, which is the president. He's going to sue the Trump administration, or has sued, and so you guys need to be paying attention to that. I give some information on that so you guys can be have knowledge and understanding about when people start calling on you and organizations start calling on you. Uh, have they been helping you? Have they been assisting you? It's one thing for us to say, let's call on the Black community and let's stand. But how many of the Black people got help? Do you understand that? Because it's time out for this. We call on Black people when we want something. We call on Black people when we need something. But when Black people need help, they're just left in the loop. It's time out for that, right? And so I would love for you guys to check out that video about the Urban League. Check out this one, of course, educational, and many other more that I have made up there. I hope you guys be blessed. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Say it with me. Say it with me. Like, share, and subscribe. I said like, share, and subscribe. Because if you don't, then you's a hater. Nah, I'm just playing. You guys have a great one. Bye bye.